Hello everyone. Welcome all to the NMIMS Podcast Club. I am Vidant Mandoi, your podcast host for today. We are back with yet another fun, thrilling and astonishing podcast episode. Our today's guest is a lady who has achieved so much in a very young age, leaving us all inspired. Miss Bosky Arora. From being a professor to the head of human resources in Mindspace. Also an articulate speaker and ICF coach on leadership and talent development. Ma'am is a role model to many of us. Okay, so let's begin, ma'am. Welcome to NMIMS, ma'am. Or I should either say welcome back to NMIMS, because let me inform to my audience that ma'am is an alumni of NMIMS. So how does it feel to come back to the university, ma'am?
So at the outset, thank you so much. I think coming back to campus is always an opportunity, and anything to do with campus, whether it is interaction with students or actually physically coming in, it's always exciting. So thank you so much. How does it feel like? Definitely, it feels very good. Like I was sharing with some of the students while coming here. I studied at NMIMS Mumbai, and the building where I studied, that does not exist anymore. But every time I visit Villipale campus, the people of course are the same. The dean, the professors. So obviously it's a very nostalgic feeling, and overall obviously resonate a lot with NMIMS, be it any campus. So it's always very warm and nostalgic to come to NM.
Okay, that's really amazing, ma'am. My first question to you will be that how did you get here? I mean, can you share a bit about your journey from the very beginning?
Sure. So essentially, so I completed my bachelor's in psychology, and while I was studying, I was not a very good student in terms of academics. I still have those reports where the scores are so low, and my parents thought if she can at least scrape through standard 10, that's a big achievement. So I come from that ACADS background. Having said that, when I started my college, I realized that I came across this topic of psychology, and since then it was no looking back. In my last year I changed my college without having an admission, so I was with Ruya College. In that year, Ruya did not offer 6-paper psychology. I was so clear that I want to study psychology that I left Ruya, and I was looking for college which offered 6 papers. Thankfully, I got an admission with KC, and I did my 6 papers with KC. I stood first class first, and more than anybody else, I just amazed myself. How did this happen? I think it was just a calling. Right, I was more and more clear in my life in terms of what I wanted to study, at least, if not profession-wise. And that's when I enrolled for masters. I did a masters in psychology again. There also I thankfully passed with flying colors. So academics has been pretty good since I joined college. I started to work, and I realized that the world demanded at that point in time more and more of MBA or PGT. And not so much psychology, or rather masters. Today the world is very different, right? If you have masters in psychology, people value you much more. A lot of people after their masters, in fact management degree, are going back to see where I can do some work on psychology, study that. So I think I've just been so lucky to have this journey. And that's when when I was once upon a time wanting to change my job in my early days, I saw that organizations were demanding management degree, and that's when I did my management from NMIMS. And since then there has been no looking back.
That's a very good answer, and that's a very honest answer, because I was about to ask you that does academic play a role? Because I have seen nowadays in my generation what students think is that the more the grades are, the more is the package, the higher is the package. So is it a myth or a fact that a student should be academically inclined, uh, because many students, when they are academically inclined, what they do is they miss the fun part. You also know that they sometimes miss the learning part. So is it a myth or a fact that the more the grades, the more is your package?
I think, it depends on what the philosophy and the priority of the hiring organization is. So sometimes they give more preference to obviously the acads, but in the long run, and this is my personal view, in the long run there's always a balance. You have to have that exposure. You have to have the quality of fun, right, and the quality of acads. So if you are in both sides of the boat, you emerge as a more wholesome professional. Because one, you definitely need to be strong in terms of concepts and conceptual knowledge, and this you don't really get in your corporate, unless you're very focused. You want to go back, you keep studying, you keep gaining more and more knowledge. But do not waste time when you are in acads. Do not waste time, but focus a lot on concepts, and at the same time have fun. Because even today, after 15, 18 plus years of experience, some of the key concepts that I had studied then are still helping me now. Of course, you have to be with time. You have to see how it's adaptive in nature. But conceptual knowledge is something which is a must. And like I said, a good balance is total yay for the individual.
Also, talking about honesty, I would like to ask you that do you think being honest, loyal to your company, and traits like these, because I've seen you worked in past in a company for 11 years, if I remember. So, but nowadays people are like they very quickly change their company for their personal growth. So, does traits like these help you achieve success, or changing your company quickly?
Right. So I wish there was a very straightforward answer to that. Again, if you are in an organization where you are learning, you are in an organization who believes in providing exposure to you, you might as well stay. You might as well, hang around. Ensure that you do, apply everything that you know. You gain a lot of exposure, and DHL for me was that organization, and therefore I spent about 11 years, 10 months with them. There were various roles within the country, various projects. It's a global organization, so various projects at global level, at Asian, at regional level. So that was very helpful. But of course, beyond a point, it depends. If you are in an organization where you think your growth is limited, and growth does not mean always vertical, right?
Yeah.
It is vertical, horizontal, both. So if the growth is limited, obviously then one has to look for opportunities elsewhere.
So, ma'am, let me ask you something. Why human resources, and what brings you to Mindspace Business Parks?
Right. Why human resources? I think it's very, I can give a very long philosophical answer, but to cut it short, I guess, going back to my roots of psychology, I realized that, if there were certain things in my life, if there were certain experiences in my life, certain role models in my life, my starting point would have been very different. With no regret, the paper was such, the subject was such that it supported me, emotionally. It supported me. It gave me that safety net. It helped me to understand myself better. And with high levels of self-awareness, like they say, you also then understand others better. Because if you know yourself better, you understand others better. And therefore, it was a very intuitive, profession for me to get into HR. I still remember my first manager. He asked me, Bosky, what do you want to do? I was still studying. I was there for my internship, industrial internship. And he asked me, what do you want to do? I had no clear answer. I remember telling him, I will do anything which has to do with the customers. And within that 30-minute conversation that I had, he said, what about HR? Let's start with that. And once you're done with your internship, you're done with your college, please join us. And I was there because of him. and I thank him every day. Right, and of course, the subject helps me to understand people. It helps me to not only formulate policies, processes, but more than anything else, it helps me to institutionalize everything that we do, because today it's not just about coming up with a process or an SOP, but it's more about how do you institutionalize, how do you engage people. And the more you are, and the more people are aware of your HR processes, policies, people processes, I don't like to call it HR processes, the better it is. That means you have literally won the game in that space.
So, what are the challenges you face while you recruit and retain one of the most talented people in your industry?
I think the challenges are multifold, because every individual is different. Every individual has his or her, their own priority. But one of the key things that really helps an organization to retain is if you have, very clear roadmap for some of your key potential in the organization, and not only have the roadmap at the back end, but also communicate it to the individual. In fact, communicate it to an extent that it almost becomes a joint ownership between yourself and the individual. Then there is nothing like it. That's the best scenario. So, let's say if somebody in customer service at X level, and we've identified that, okay, this person has a potential to grow up to, X level, and in X function, ensure that, you're working along with the person to get there. And I think that's the best form of engagement. And in the journey, of course, help the person with development opportunities, growth opportunities on the job, off the job, near the job, like this.
One question is left unanswered. What brings you to Mindspace?
Right. So I think in terms of for me, what works for me is cultural engagement. What works for me is a lot of empowerment, and I think the current organization for me is such which gives me a lot of psychological safety to air whatever I have in mind, whether it is some of the good things or some of the concerns that I may have. It gives you this space to do many things, many qualitative things, whether it is visioning or strategy at a high level, to very tacit conceptualization of action plans and rolling out and getting people together. So these are some of the different flavors for HR that keeps one engaged. And the scale is large, the scale is huge. So again, there are a lot of cultural and different nuances that are there in the organization, and you have to navigate through all of that. So I think these some of the simple as well as complex situations is something that really keeps me engaged. Yeah.
Okay, that's really great, ma'am. But given the changing dynamics, you have answered really well. But how do you see the role of HR evolving, and what are the key areas HR professionals should focus on?
Right. I think it's a lot of theory. A lot of papers have already documented and said that from PMIR, right, where you were just managing attendance, to today having a strategic role in the organization, HR has evolved multifold. But I'll pick up one of the topics which is very in, and especially after the pandemic, which is about well-being. So a lot of us are talking about well-being, and a lot of organizations are looking at well-being from the perspective of, let's say, coming up with policies, processes.
Dynamic has changed to
Huh.
health industry.
Yes, and initiatives around well-being, which is, let's say, tying up with counselors, and rolling out sessions. But I think what would really tick is not so much about having the sessions or having documented policies around well-being, but what will really tick is looking at what goes behind the scene for every individual. Maybe not able to customize it at individual level, but you can always look at people in general and see that if these are some of the key issues that anybody would face, how can I support them in those issues, so that at least the person is focused on the job and towards his or her goals and deliverables, and not bothered about whether these are some of the key things being taken care of or not. So at org level, if we can take care of those softer issues for any individual, then I think the impact on the job and on the business and the deliverables will be more clear and much higher.
Okay, so they should be more focused on themselves, their personal, and not on the documentation part, right? That's what you're saying.
No, not so much that. What I mean is that instead of looking at, let's say, wellness from a initiative perspective, that I'm doing sessions on wellness, I rather come up with processes and policies which will help the individual to navigate his or her situation in a manner that you can dedicate a lot of focus on the job and towards your role and deliverables.
So coming back to your journey, how was your college life? I mean, are there any insights or recollections from your time at NMIMS and any other college that you still like to recall?
Sure. What exactly are you looking at?
Like any story from your college life, any fun thriller that you had?
Sure. Sure. So from NMIMS, Vilipale, definitely, apart from the faculty and the students, or rather my peers, definitely, the vada paos and sandwiches of the world. But during my psychology days, because we were always experimenting and we always wanted to look for subjects which are the real people, right, on whom you experiment. I think that is one key memory that I have. And some of the field trips that we used to do, I think these field trips are very, very, carved for the students, and therefore at that level, when you are as a student, you don't take it so seriously. But I would urge every student to take every field trip seriously, because those are some of the key experiences at that point in time that you gain, which you don't have an exposure to thereafter on a plateau. You really have to work to get to know any key organization or a key field that you may be interested in. But when you're in college, and if your institute is really up there helping you to have field experiences, you should wholeheartedly participate.
That's really nice, ma'am.
And to quote an example, in fact, while I was doing my masters, we were taken to one of the world oldest yoga institute in Mumbai, which is at Santa Cruz. And I remember that year and till date, it kind of there was this moment wherein it kind of sowed the seed of spirituality in me. And even after 15-18 years, I still remember that field trip. And today, yoga has been a way of life for me. So I almost think I'm a corporate yogi.
Okay, so can you elaborate on that, ma'am? That how does yoga impact your life and your personal well-being?
Sure. So like they say, yoga is not just about various poses, right? It's about union. It's about various phases of you coming together with nature. So it just gives you that focus. You are more calm, composed. You are more mindful in everything that you do. And one is practicing yoga in terms of, let's say, the physical movements and your exercise. But the other one is your way of life. So the teachings of yoga is something that I have really embraced. And even at job, I look at people from not only what they exhibit, but I also look at them why they do what they do. And all of this orientation has come because of this practice.
I think yoga connects you to your spiritual being. That's what I believe, and that has worked for you also, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Okay, ma'am. Like I'm a bookworm, so I ask this question to everyone. Do you read books?
Of course I do.
Okay, so what kind of books, and can you suggest some books to our audience?
Oh, sure. So nowadays, I think life is more about podcasts and a lot of listening, right? But I have read many books, and 2 or 3 books that really come to my mind is one of the books that really helped me when I was a new manager is Know-How by Ramcharan. I think that book really changed my life. He talks about 8 know-hows in the book, which is about right from positioning of your own self to how do you really lead people, how do you really judge people. Judging may not be in the context that we understand, but it's more positive. How do you set priorities? How do you break your strategy into goals and so on? So Know-How by Ramcharan for sure. I am a big believer in behavioral sciences and neuro psychology. So currently I'm reading a book which is allied to that. So I like the book Nudge. So if you get a chance, you should definitely read the book Nudge. So these are the top 2 books that come to my mind right now. Yeah.
Like you are a role model to us, as I have said before. Like Bosky ma'am has won so many awards, and who was the role model to you?
Right. Sometime at the beginning I mentioned that if I had a mentor at the beginning of my career, life would have been slightly different. So I think the subject psychology, right, has been a role model for me. It almost gave me a window to many things in life, as well as to my own self. Apart from this topic, I think there have been many role models for me. There has not been just one, but many role models for me. At the beginning of my career, I used to shiver if I had to talk in front of 5 people. Forget a large audience. I used to watch a lot of TED talks, whether it is Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev, right? Sadhguru from Isha, or it is Karan Johar, talking about various things on international platforms or local. I have followed many people in various walks of life, and I have learned a lot of things from various people, including customer orientation from one of the guys who used to serve coffee in our office at one of my earlier organization, to some of my bosses at whether it is at DHL or at Aditya Birla or at the Blackstone, yeah, or even now.
So you should keep learning from everyone. That's what you are saying. That's really nice, ma'am. Uh, can we speak about where you gained interest in speaking? Like, what was the start of your speaking career?
Yeah, so going back to a few years ago, so when I was studying, masters, I remember we had a field trip, and the next day we were supposed to make a presentation on it, but it was an impromptu one. And our professor then, he just called my name. He said, "Bosky, come on, you come and you present." We were 22 of us in the class. I still remember I was not able to talk about this field trip even in 2 sentences. I was just there. I froze, and that was one of my most embarrassing moments. I still remember. Having said that, I thought, why look at it as a dampener, as a bummer? Why not look at it as something that I can improve on? So that was, the tipping point for me. And when I started working, at the beginning, at the initial stage of my career, there were not many speaking opportunities. But when I joined DHL, I was very interested in training and development. And I realized that there was, once a presentation I had to do in front of a large audience, and there were a couple of people on the call as well from Asia Pacific office. I had a shiver in my voice, and I kept remembering my experience of masters. But I thought from then, where I could not frame 2 sentences, to now, where I could make a 30-minute presentation with whatever shiver in my voice. At least there was progress.
There was confidence building.
There was some progress, some confidence, and all of this was, I was very aware of, what was happening. And I somewhere in the, back of my head, I felt I was enjoying that moment. I was enjoying the progress. And that was, I think, another tipping point. And from there on, I started to, watch people. I looked at people when they presented. I looked at the way they conducted themselves in front of the audience. And then, of course, the media, the internet, all of that was already pretty much in. So the access to, good talks, great talks, was very much there. So learning from others, learning on the job was much more than anything else. And with time, when I started to head learning and development at a given point in time, I was also trained on facilitation skills by one of the international agencies, HR consultants, and that again gave me a lot of boost and confidence. So yeah, it has been a journey. I think there is miles to cover, but given that day and today, I think I've come a long way. But yeah, a lot of long way to go ahead.
So, ma'am, let me ask you one question: that what was the impact of current recession that is going on in your industry, ma'am? Because and many people nowadays ask me this question: that how a person can sustain in a period of recession, because people are getting fired, a mass layoff many MNCs are doing mass layoff, and people are being placed and not getting joining letters for months and years. So, what was the impact, and where do you see this situation going?
Right. One, I think first the organizations take those calls as per the belief that they have in terms of how they want to conduct themselves in tough times. So there have been, in my experience, I have worked with organizations, let's say during pandemic, where we have rolled out the offers, and this is to laterals as well as to institutes, but we have delayed joining rather than revoking the offer. And then there have been situations where you have actually revoked the offers as well, but then you have compensated. I mean, you're not on my payroll, and I've still compensated for that. So various situations, various experiences.
As a young generation, it is a situation of panic for us, because many MNCs are not even hiring freshers. That's a very panic situation for us. So can you please?
Right. Like I said again, it depends on the organization, what their priorities are. I would say that while you are studying, while you are having your industrial traineeship, try and gain as much experience as you can. And one key learning, or one key thing, if I have to tell my younger self today, is the power of networking. So as a newcomer in the industry, and for many years until very recently, I always thought it was all about work. Job was all about work. Career was all about work, and that's about it. But today when I look back, I think that I wish I had networked more, because it helps you in many ways. Of course, the ultimate happiness and the moment of truth is when you actually get a job because of your network. But it also helps you in many ways. It helps you to create a cushion around many things. So, for example, if you are just stuck in a situation in office, you want to bounce off a problem with your peers, at least you know that you have a X set of people to bounce back on, and share ideas, share your own thoughts and ideas when they are in a situation, gain ideas, invite ideas when you are in a situation. So the power of networking is extremely understated, and I would urge each and every student to go ahead and ensure that you do invest in networking, and not for immediate gains. It will only you will fall back, or rather it will fall flat. So not networking for immediate gains, but just networking to build relation, and you will see the beauty of it as the time unfolds.
So last question to you, ma'am. I'm not taking much time of you. So where do you see India in next few years?
I have to ask this question to you. You are so academically and that way so glued. So India today, we all know where we are currently. We all have seen, like they say, when the US sneezes or it catches cold, we all sneeze. But today, I think somehow we are, I won't say we are 100% insulated, but to an extent, I think we have taken right steps towards growth of the economy. Couple of years ago, when people were talking, when the world was talking about our population, that it's so high, and that was a lag for us. Today, it has become an advantage. like they say by 2070, in few years to come, some of the countries may not even have 40-50% of population which is working population. But for us, it is going to be 60 to 70% of population which is working population, and therefore the opportunities for conglomerates, for large business houses to startups are going to be immense, and therefore at least at a personal level, there is a lot of hope and there is a lot of optimism in terms of growth for the country, and we may also emerge as a superpower wherein if we, God forbid, catch cold, somebody else will sneeze.
Okay, so thank you very much, ma'am. It was a very insightful session. Thank you for giving us your valuable time. We are honored to have you with us, and I would love to share our heartful gratitude on behalf of NMIMS Podcast Club.
Thank you so much. It was totally an honor for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. This is your podcast host Vedant Mandloi signing off for today.